Yo guys, what's going on? Robert Warshack here. We're going to be going over the best decks since the most recent patch. We had quite a few cards in Rogue, Druid, and Paladin get nerfed, and by quite a few, it was literally 2 for the Rogue, 1 for the Druid, 1 for the Paladin. All in all, Rogue got hit the most because it hit 2 of like the core cards in each of the decks. So Pirate Rogue went down a little bit because of the location nerf, and then the Spider and the Cycle Rogue got hit. However, the Divine Brew and the Paladin basically had no effect. Drunk Paladin, as we'll see and cover, still very, very good. And then Dollhouse, again, didn't really make any effect because whether that card costs 1 mana or 2 mana, the overall effect of the card throughout the game doesn't change at all. And most of the time, it doesn't matter what the mana is spent on in the early game because you're just developing stuff anyway. So whether it costs 1 or 2, honestly, it makes no change in that Druid deck. So first off, we have the Menagerie Death Knight. It's been a very popular deck for a couple, I'd say like a month or 2 now. It's gone up and down in just popularity. I think one of the core cards of the deck and what makes this, along with most of the other aggro decks, very powerful right now is the Jug. This is the 5 mana 3/3 battle cry. Give 3 random friendly minions of different minion types +3/+3. So if you have 3 separate minions of different types on the board, this is 9/9 in stats that can go face. This is just a bloodlust on minions that sticks to the next turn, plus it's a 3/3 body in itself. And in this deck, you're going to have a bunch of things that are like beasts and demons and undeads and murlocs and pirates, you know what I mean? So everything. The leeches also count for stuff. The observer is a demon. So there's just a ton of just minions with multiple keywords, if not just a wide variety. That makes it so when you play the Jug on 5, which most of the time you always want to do, you're going to win either that turn or the next turn. Has a lot of reach with the Goreblade and Ghoul's Knight because it pumps these guys up to 2 attack each, which for 4 mana can do 10 damage if there's nothing else on the board, and they stick around. Horizon's Edge, each one of these is technically 15 damage, 2 locations is 30. This deck just does a massive amount of damage, surprisingly. Its only problem is it does run out of steam eventually because you just run out of cards. There isn't a lot of card draw. However, it can just win, and I was very surprised by the performance of this deck, and it really, again, just comes down to this Jug being very, very powerful, which we'll see in a couple other of the aggro decks that we cover.
Have you come? Remind the viewers as one of our top sponsors that they should like, comment, sub if they haven't. For you, have great birthday and Christmas. Is that good?
Another Death Knight deck that's very popular is the Triple Blood Starship Control Death Knight, which we saw in the Masters Tour last weekend. A ton of people started rotating into this deck for a very solid, just really good control deck with 2 different win conditions. One of them, well, I guess you could say 3. One of them is just getting so much life and armor that your opponent just gives up. The other one is obviously the Starships, because if you get the Spires, then you summon the Starship and you go Orbital Mood, or the Exodar, you just make a field full of giant minions which your opponent can't deal with. And then of course the other win condition is you just kill Jaden, and then eventually your opponent just cannot deal with the large scale demons. This deck has a lot of draw, a lot of removal. Wild Pyromancer with Poison Breath is a field clear. The Corpse Explosions is a field clear. Suffocate is minion removal. Ceaseless is more removal. The Leeches are technically a ton of removal as well. And then of course we have Dirty Rats for disruption if you're playing against another control deck, or if you're playing against like an OTK deck like the Owl deck or something like that. This is definitely a very, very popular deck. A lot of people playing this Death Knight deck, and it is a very, very, very strong control deck right now. Looking at another deck that goes for the Jugs, this is going to be the Aggro Priest or Fishing Priest, hence the Fishing Rod, which we will see here. After your hero attacks, summon a 1-cost minion from your deck. So you're able to pull out stuff like the Brain Masseuse, the Catch of the Day, and the Overzealous Healer, which are just really good stats. It's a 1 mana 3/3, a 1 mana 3/3, and a 1 mana 2/4. But the key is this is undead and it's a pirate, which again, this deck is very wide in the minions that it plays. A lot of undeads, a lot of pirates and beasts, so the Jugs, and even demons. So the Jug is able to buff those minions up and make it quite annoying for your opponent. While this deck does cap out at basically 3 mana with the Jug being 5, it has a lot of staying power with the hero power because it has a couple imbue cards in here. So even though it technically runs out of cards, it keeps creating cards, which then those cards most of the time create cards, and it's just a very, very easy to play aggro deck. Games are over most of the time by turn 5. And if they get the Jug out, they kind of win. I've lost so many games against this Priest deck because they go like Observer into Mysteries into Jug, or Jug into Observer, and there's really just nothing you can do. And it's also pretty inexpensive. I see 2 legendaries here, and it's very, very popular as well. Moving on to a deck that we saw a unbelievable amount at the Masters Tour, and it is very, very popular on ladder. That's going to be the Drunk Paladin. While this deck technically got nerfed because the Divine Brew only gives Divine Shield now and no longer attack, at its core, this deck still does the same thing. It puts a massive amount of stats on board early. You go ahead and play Sea Shanty, which summons 3 5/5s. You combo that with Lanessa to make even more. The Flickering Light Bot, even going to 5 mana and getting nerfed a ton, still is an insane card. The fact that you're able to summon the 0 mana 3/3 and then a 0 mana basically 8/8 is nutso mode. There's a couple builds that run the Slither Spear. There's some that run no Slither Spear and just double maul. It really doesn't matter. This deck is very popular. It was the most brought, I believe, deck at this most recent Masters Tour, and a lot of people play this at top a 100 legend. Keep in mind, it also has the double resistance aura in it, so your opponent's spells cost 1 more last 2 enemy turns, which means if you're playing against any deck that is like a control deck or an OTK deck or a mage deck or just any deck that just has a lot of spells, this deck annihilates, just obliterates those decks, including like Rogue wants to play like a bunch of 0 mana cards or coins. This just, like I said, it just shits on them. So Drunk Paladin, hints by the name, you can play this and not really care. Just play the cards that are green, and most of the time you'll be in the green. You'll have a positive win rate. Moving to a newer build of the Demon Hunter. This is like a hybrid of the Ball Hog, but it also runs a lot of the pain, because when you run Ball Hog and you're resummoning it, most of the time you're going to have just a massive amount of health, because you're just going to keep life stealing, and then the Fell Hunter resummons the Ball Hog. But what's interesting about this deck is it runs the new Umbra card, but it also runs the Thrill Seeker. And the reason you get to run the Thrill Seeker is you run a bunch of cards that deal damage to yourself. So like after your hero attacks, 3 damage to your hero, you run Acupuncture, deal 4 damage to both heroes. So if you happen to have the Thrill Seeker out, all the damage that you would normally take, your opponent just takes as well. So whether you're doing Nightshade Tea or you have like the Brain Masseuse out and you trade her into an extremely large minion, this deck can pump damage. Also having the Kane, or aka Kanye, out to get through taunts and just go all face is insane. I've seen this deck pop up. Like a lot of people are playing this deck now. A couple buddies of mine sent me some lists that they had, and they were able to hit legend very quickly. I believe Give Me Star had posted, yeah, 12-1 to legend. Pain DH is OP, and this is pretty much the list that this is just a copy pasta. It's the same exact list. Give You Star, my man, copy pasta master, sees the deck, copies 12-1 to legend, so gaining a ton of popularity, and is a just another take on the Ball Hog deck that's a little bit more aggressive. If you lean towards the control variants that you enjoy, the Space Demon Hunter is gaining a massive amount of popularity. Again, revolves around the Defense Crystal, which I thought we were done with this, and then we go ahead and use the Fell Bat, which summons more defense crystals, or we Carnivorous Cube the Fell Bat, which summons more defense crystals. You make a massive Starship. I've seen it go up 60 attack, whether you're using like then Ceaseless Expanse to clear the board and then Exodar to do 60 damage to the face, or you're just summoning the Starship and your opponent can't deal with, or you're summoning the Starship and then going Fellbat to hopefully then summon multiple Starships. There's a lot of different ways this deck can get to a win that all revolve around, again, that Starfish or the Starship, or the Kill Jaded. This deck, while it does have a massive amount of armor gain, a good amount of draw, and a huge amount of field control, it doesn't really have much like AoE to the opponents. The best thing this deck has is the Infiltrate, and the, I guess, the 1 Immo aura. This deck's going to be very, very weak if you do not draw the Defense Crystal and get the ball rolling on getting a massive amount of armor, and then just keep summoning more and more Defense Crystals. Honestly, not my favorite kind of control deck. It's just, it is popular. A lot of people are playing it. I played against it all day yesterday. It was like 20-25% of my games, while the other 25% was the Death Knight. Definitely not my favorite of the control deck that's been floating around, and I suspect this sort of deck to possibly get changed in the future, just because it's like you're just casually playing 20-minute games just to get a massive amount of armor and then do nothing. So like, it's fun for like a game or two, and then you're like, wow, this is like the same thing, and then you just like don't do anything the whole game. You're just like focusing on Defense Crystal. So popular deck, not my favorite to play against. The Pain Hunter is probably going to be more exciting if you're looking for a deck that like wins quicker. And again, if you want more control on the Demon Hunter era, then obviously that Spaceship deck is for you. While normally I only cover 5 decks, I know we covered 6 here, but there are a couple other decks in the meta that I did not mention, but could probably use a notable mention, and that's going to be the Buff Hunter. I didn't cover this because Grunter Hunter is probably the most brain dead possible deck that you could play. First of all, you're going to get owned by any player that's good at the game, because this deck drops off heavily as you get up in rank, which means that it is more so hedged towards like the not so good players. So the bet, I think on like platinum, it has like an insane win rate. Yeah, so as you can see, Buff Hunter has like a 57% win rate in platinum. And then as we move up, let's say to top the legend, I bet it's nowhere to be seen. It's down here in middle of tier 2. Still does, I guess, pretty good, but again, we don't play Buff Hunter. But taking a look at what's good in Legend, Pirate Rogue, this just got nerfed. I think this deck and the stats don't reflect of how bad it was hit. I still think it's probably okay, but not that great. The Fishing Priest who went over, the Imbue Druid, again, is okay. Just gets a little boring. A Menagerie Death Knight went over. Big Demon Hunter is kind of the same thing as the Ball Hog thing. The Imbue Paladin is an interesting deck because I've been playing a ton of this, and we actually have some videos coming out. We were able to hit Legend with that deck on our free-to-play Asia account, and I'm currently sitting at a win rate of 42-11 to Legend. And then on X, I did post a thing today. What was it? We were 66-18 total with this deck with a 79% win rate. So Dragon Imbue Paladin, in my opinion, is one of the strongest decks in the game. However, the meta says it's middle of tier 2, and then as we move up on the ladder, it actually goes to middle of tier 3. But besides that, we hit everything of relevance. If there's anything that popped up that you guys want to mention, feel free to leave that in the comment section below. Good luck on ladder. Hopefully the decks work for you guys. And as always, I'm Robert Warshack, and happy whatever the hell day it is.